Local journalism isn't just losing revenue, it's losing people. Across the country, newsrooms are struggling to hire and retain early career reporters, not because the passion isn't there, but because the economics simply don't work. In many communities, especially high costs and seasonal markets, journalists can't afford to live where they're needed most. But what if the solution isn't just higher pay, but rethinking the entire support system around journalism? Today, we're going to explore one of the most innovative experiments in local news sustainability, at least we've seen here at ENP, where a nonprofit didn't just fund reporting, it bought a home. Hi, I'm Mike Blinder, publisher of ENP Magazine. This, of course, is ENP Reports, our weekly vodcast series that explores the people, organizations, and issues shaping the evolving news publishing industry with candid conversation, bold ideas, and hopefully strong insights that matter to you, media leaders. My guests today are two people who are not just talking about saving local journalism, they're building a model that could reshape how we support it. Ed Miller is the co-founder and editor of the Provincetown Independent, an award-winning weekly serving Outer Cape Cod. He has more than 35 years of experience in independent publishing. He's launched multiple community newspapers, all focused on deep local reporting and civic engagement. Ed, it's an honor to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us, Mike.
It's my pleasure. And your cohort in crime here is Janet Lesniak. Did I say that correct, Janet?
I did.
Thank you. I got one right for a change. You're the executive director of the Local Journalism Project. Correct me if I'm wrong, Janet. You're a nonprofit dedicated to training and supporting early career journalists. Do I have that right?
You have it absolutely correctly.
Well, we're going to unpack this. When we come back, why the biggest threat to local journalism may not be revenue or AI, but rent. And how one community raised $500,000 to solve that problem. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is Walter Hussman. Our family has been in the news business for over 100 years. Journalism includes two parts, reporting the news and providing opinions. But in recent years, there's been too much opinion appearing in news reporting. This has eroded public trust in news reporting to the lowest level of any U.S. institution. To address this, we started a nonprofit, the Center for Integrity in News Reporting.
The Center for Integrity in News Reporting, CFINR, is on a mission to rebuild public trust in journalism, one newsroom and one classroom at a time. We champion the effort to have news organizations and journalism schools create and prominently display their own clear, concise statements of core journalistic values. Learn more by visiting the Center for Integrity and News Reporting site at cfinr.org.
Ed, Janet, the Local Journalism Project launched with the newspaper, correct? In other words, you built a for-profit newspaper and a nonprofit arm, and your mission, explain it to me, Ed, was to help foster youth so you could find the damn journalists you need to create the news? Is this what this is all about?
Well, kind of. It's not like the Local Journalism Project is an arm of the newspaper. They're really two independent organizations, but they are attacking the same problem from two different perspectives. And one is the traditional, newspaper business that is clearly under threat all across the country. And the other is something a little newer that I think people are discovering. A lot of people are launching news sites and news organizations that are totally nonprofit. And that's working in a lot of places. For a number of reasons, we thought that here in this community on the Outer Cape, we didn't want to be purely a nonprofit, that there was something really important about having the newspaper be a business, the way there always had been a business.
This is brilliant. I haven't heard of this, and maybe it's out there more. Because, we've had nonprofits on this show as big as the Baltimore Banner and small ones.
Yep.
But every time we dive into it, there's. I remember Stuart Bainham, who formed the Baltimore Banner, the Millionaire, said we have a nonprofit soul, but a for-profit brain. Nonprofit sometimes is just how you do the books, right? You still got to have revenue streams, but to have a complete separate entity that is focusing on the philanthropic world and helping support the mission of journalism, and then the for-profit arm of the paper, I think is a brilliant move. Okay, Ed, so we've defined the relationship between the nonprofit and the newspaper. Let's get down to the idea. What precipitated this? How important is housing as an issue in the Outer Cape right now, especially when it comes to keeping reporters?
Well, it's a problem it's the one problem that we really didn't foresee when we launched the Provincetown Independent in 2019. Because we knew that it would be a challenge to fund the paper with declining advertising revenues and with fewer and fewer people reading and really, depending on local newspapers, even though this part of the country has a long tradition of excellent local newspapers. We thought that we would have plenty of people wanting to come and work for us. We were creating a newsroom that would adhere to high standards and put out a really high quality product. And we thought, of course, people are going to want to work for us. And what we didn't foresee, two things really. First, just the cost of housing, which already was very high out here, just went completely through the roof with the pandemic, and real estate prices went crazy, and at the same time, the conversion of year-round rentals to short-term rentals for the high season. This is obviously a tourist place out here, Outer Cape Cod, where people get high amounts of rent for weekly rentals in the summer, and a lot of places are just empty all year. So there was a tremendous shortage of year-round housing. And the other thing was all the people who we thought would want to work for us have left the profession. The number of jobs in journalism has completely tanked, as you know, and we had a really hard time just finding people to come and work for us.
Most would have immediately said, okay, well, we're a nonprofit, we'll raise some money, and then we'll give the money to the reporters so they can go out and find a shack or a place to live. You got bold. You bought a condo. Take me through that decision. When did that light bulb hit you?
Well, it was interesting in that we were actually at a board meeting just about a year ago, maybe, a little long. It was, I think, in May that we were sitting in a board meeting, and really it was a come to Jesus moment, I think, for everybody around that table. And one of our board members, while we were in the meeting, starts scrolling through Zillow to see what's around. It sounds so ridiculous when you say it, and it's true. And he pulled up a couple of options. Realtors were contacted. Visits were made literally within that week to a couple of different properties. And this one particular condo with 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms made it viable for 3 people, 3 young adults to live together. Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't have the money yet.
No.
You had the condo. So Ed, stick around. I got a lot of questions for you, but I'm going to stay with Jenna as we build it.
He was in the room. He's a witness.
All right. So you're in the room. That's right. You're on the board. Okay. So
I am on the board of the Local Journalism Project. And, when this idea surfaced, we called a friend of ours, Mac Hay, who owns a bunch of restaurants and fish markets out here on the Cape, and said to him, we're thinking of buying a condo to put employees in. Are we crazy? And he said, you're crazy if you don't do it. And this is something that has been happening here for years with other businesses that have the resources. They need employees, and they can't get them unless they give them a place to live. And so businesses and nonprofits more and more have been going this route here.
All right, so you found the condo, and then you called for advice, and someone else said, yeah, do it. Because to me, it also might be a good investment. It's like putting your money in a CD. The nonprofit owns the condo, Janet, and
Yes.
you've raised the $500,000 to buy it through just getting on the phone and begging. How did you do this?
It was, as all things are in this organization, it was a massive team effort. One of our board members was in touch with the bank to see if a mortgage was viable. Something I did not know, that it is challenging as a nonprofit to get a mortgage. There was some pushback from some of the places that we went to, which I found fascinating, in that many nonprofits that I'm familiar with are more successful in putting money together than a lot of the businesses that I'm familiar with. But there was some hesitancy. Our local bank in Provincetown, Siemens Bank, said, yes, here's what you need to do. And you need to get $500,000 or better in order to do it. And so we reached out. A couple of our board members stepped up immediately, which is always a great incentive, because nobody wants to jump into the pool by themselves. So it was much easier to go to other people. And I will tell you that the response was profound, in that large donors, and we got donations of $25, $50, and people said, I know this isn't much, but I understand, I value what this newspaper does, what the Journalism Project is doing for the industry, and I believe in you.
Ed, there was a different way to do this, right? I mean, let me be clear. You could have simply hired journalists that don't live in your town, right? It could be in Topeka and just do their journalism via Zoom and submit your articles via text or whatever online. And how important, in your opinion, is it to have that face in the town, working the beat and being part and a fabric of the community?
It's absolutely essential. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because we have tried to work with people remotely, and it simply doesn't work. The real nitty-gritty work of journalism means being out on the street and talking to people and seeing what is going on with your own eyes and ears. And it simply can't be done properly from a distance. Even copy editing, which you would think, well, a copy editor doesn't have to be there physically, it can be anywhere. No, it doesn't work, because 3/4 of the copy editing has to do with, wait a minute, why didn't you talk to Joe at the hardware store? Why didn't you call up the head of the,
What?
And
No. There are too many brainiacs now that say AI is the solution. We don't have to send the body to the school board meeting. We'll just get the tape. We'll run it through an AI bot. We'll get the transcript, and we'll just get an editor in Topeka or Altoona. I'm making up these towns. They could be in your town. It's going to edit the thing up. You're saying no. That body should be at the school board meeting. Is that what you're saying, sir?
that's what I'm saying. And one other thing about the importance of bringing the kinds of young people here that we've been introducing to journalism at the Independent. Having the local journalism project supporting that part of the work means that we are able to really cover the news of the community in a way that these small nonprofit efforts can't. We look at some of the online nonprofit startups, and they're perfectly good, but they might be publishing 5 or 6 stories a week. And we're publishing 40 stories a week. in the
No,
paper.
you're not You're publishing 40 journalistic pieces a week. This is not.
Well, it's not just it's not just hard news.
No, of
We're
course not.
covering the arts. We're covering food and theater and books and all of the cultural and social aspects of what's happening in this community. One of our most popular, well-read parts of the paper is the obituary section, because we don't just print and charge for obituaries that people send us. We have reporters that write obituaries, and
No.
it's a lost art, but we're doing it here.
And I want to add one thing to what
Yeah.
Ed said, because it has been so on my mind. We have a small event coming up, and it's an event featuring one of our former fellows. And on our website, you can see where she talks about, her name is Sophie Hills, and when she talks about what her experience as a fellow at the Provincetown Independent gave her, was the opportunity to write about the people that were impacted by the stories she was writing,
Oh, that's amazing.
which you can't do when you're doing that remotely.
All right, so
She,
let's we got to bring this thing home. All right, so a local nonprofit organization found this amazing model, and your phone's going to start ringing, Janet. I mean,
I
in your
hope so.
email box after this. Oh, I'm sure after this interview. Do you see this replicable? Do you see this growing? You figured out the model. You figured out how to beg for the cash. You got the bank to work with you. Ed obviously is loving it. The community is loving it. How is this? Is this easily replicable in other towns and cities across the U.S.?
I believe it is. I will say that we are still figuring it out. As I said earlier, Ed and Teresa dreamt this up as a way of creating this hybrid that would be sustainable. But I very deeply believe that it's replicable.
Ed, 5 years from now, this is still going to be here. You're going to have a lot of, God forbid, we'll have youth reporting in a community. We'll have journalists, people coming out of J schools, or people who just want to get into the industry, finding a way to learn it on the street and live in a beautiful place and learn it from the ground up.
Yeah, well, I do think that it will be here 5 years from now, and that's because of the really remarkable reaction that we got when we asked people to help us do this, and the number of people who came forward with money and encouragement of various kinds was really really remarkable. And I don't think it can happen just anywhere. There's certain things. The newspaper still gets more than 50% of its revenue from print advertising. Okay, now that's because we have a business community here that supports us and believes in the value of local journalism. In a lot of places, the Main Street has been gutted, and that hasn't completely happened here. So, I think you do have to have certain core conditions in the community that will allow this kind of project to succeed. But I'm sure there are many places where that's true, where there are a few people of wealth and vision who are willing to support it. And I'm not talking about billionaires coming along and buying, the whole shebang and just paying for the paper. I'm talking about a whole community of people. We had more than 100 people donate to the fund to purchase the condo. And that's what you need. You need a groundswell in the community of people who come together to get it done.
Ed Miller, co-founder and editor of the Provincetown Independent. Janet Lesniak, the executive director of the Local Journalism Project. You guys are amazing. We're going to have you back on the show, And I'm going to come. We're going, my wife and I and kid are going to come back and visit friends in New England. Ed, I'm going to ask you to show me that condo this summer. Do you promise me? I'll buy you a lobster, but I want you to show me that condo because we're going to be there, and I'd love to see it. You guys, thank you for being part of the show. Really appreciate it. And thanks for this forward thinking. Amazing. Have a great day.
Thank you, Mike.